Stupid. Why don't you watch where you're going?
I understand how you feel, Mr. Jackson. We're trying to locate the juveniles responsible now. Yes, Jimmy's okay now and he's back in class. Yeah, fine. Goodbye. Yes.
Mrs. Green was just in here. She said there were some youths fighting down at Gate C.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, break it up. Come on, break it up. Come on, now, that's enough. You, go wait in my office. The rest of you get back to your classes. You, I've been watching you for 2 or 3 weeks now. You don't belong on this campus, do you? Come on, get going.
Why did he call his character? Give me the magazine. Give me the magazine, Joey. Why did he call his character animal? Oh, pay attention, Derek. James, turn around and sit down. He said an invisible man, not the invisible man. Well, why? No one? Well, what was Ellison trying to say? Why did he call his character an invisible man? Sit down, Michael, and give me the magazine. Derek, would you please sit down? Well, at the end, we see him hiding underground. Why? Laverne?
To me, it's a real isolation. It's like, well, you know what some people feel when they have no place else to go.
Exactly, Laverne, but do you think that you could expand on that idea? I mean, what was he trying... Drop the cigarette, Clarence. See me after class.
Priscilla, I can't coming back here after class every day.
You heard me.
I ain't heard nothing. Y'all hear something? I ain't heard nothing. See, that's cold. All I said is I can't come back to class and you gonna cop a plea. Just like a hunky.
Get out of my classroom, Clarence. I don't want to see you in here again until you've talked to the principal. Now get out.
That's cool.
Now, Laverne was saying that some people feel that Mr. Ellison was referring to the invisible man. Make sure that you're not late for class, because now we're going to discuss how an underground man can escape. Now, read it on your textbooks on page 126. Now, don't forget not to be late for class.
Say, I really enjoyed that discussion today. The book really means a lot to me. I can sort of feel for the character.
In what way, Laverne?
Well, I guess I sort of mean the pressures that society puts on people sometimes. It makes them react. Some strike back. He just got tired of striking back, I guess.
I guess he did.
Oh, I also want to thank you for nominating me for the class scholarship.
That was my pleasure, Laverne.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Look, I told you I didn't want to see you in here again.
You told me to come back. I got a right to be in here just like everybody else.
Not in my class, you don't. As far as I'm concerned, the principal can do what he likes with you. Clarence, you have been late to every class this semester. And I'm not going to take your back talk anymore.
You can't put me out.
Look, I told you to get out of here, Clarence, and I mean it.
You teachers are all the same. They send you down here from the government building and boom, the social worker's a teacher. That's dead. And you short on the smarts and long on the stupid. Don't you know ain't nobody gonna put me out of no place? Put me out, move me. Now look, especially Miss Ann, I'm gonna tell you what. You report me in, and I'm gonna swoop and jam you so fast you won't even have a chance to say the principal's last name. What do you think about that? See you in class, Mama Tilly.
This is the third time I've been here this week.
Ladies,
No gas,
ladies,
spending my money for bus
Lincoln,
fare.
have a
I
meeting.
could be down spending all my money
Ladies,
for bus fare.
please, let's start an orderly meeting here. Now, several of you have requested that we have this advisory council meeting in order to clear the air on the violence problems we've been having at this school. Or at least some people think we are.
Mr. Collins, I don't think that there's any question but that we're having
Look,
problems.
Mrs. Hiller, I'm a teacher, too. What happens here happens everywhere, wherever you've got kids.
I don't doubt that many communities face the same problem. That's not my point. What I am concerned about is that something be done about it. I mean, I don't want to have to be afraid to step foot into my classroom. My idea of teaching doesn't include facing the other end of a switchblade.
Well, maybe this just isn't the job for you. This is only your first year of teaching, right? Maybe you should think of another.
Now, wait a minute, both of you. This wasn't meant to be a group therapy violence session. I've asked Mr. Fremont here, an attorney from the Board of Education, to sit in on this meeting so that he can get an idea of the problems that we're facing.
Why do we always think about the negatives in this school? What about the high achievers?
Now, hold on. That is not what we were discussing.
Well, I get pretty upset at always hearing about those few kids who lose their cool. What do you suggest we do? Set up an armed camp? Guards at every gate? Cops on every corner?
You are not going to make a prison out of my boy's school. That's one thing we are not going to take. Am I right?
That's right. That's no way to treat the situation. Fences with barbed wire, guards, passes to come and go. You can't teach our children that way.
Now, just hold on a minute, Selma. We got to do something. We are the parents, and we are the community, and it's very much our problem. We need more security around here. It's the only way we can control this violence. What about that shooting over at Fox Junior High, 2 miles away? That boy could have been one of our boys.
Mrs. Dempsey's right. Just yesterday, one of my students was beaten up because he wouldn't give another student his lunch money. The school nurse said he was a mess. We just can't ignore these problems anymore and hope that they'll go away, because they won't. Now, several of the faculty members and parents have circulated this petition. We, the undersigned, demand that the administration take some positive action to curb the rising incidence of violence in and around this school area. It is our feeling that the faculty
Now, just
members
you wait a
and
minute.
community...
I never signed that petition. I never even saw it.
Mrs. Roberts, please, we are supposed to conduct this thing.
Just how many of the faculty does that petition represent?
I know, I haven't signed it. Where did that come from? I
That I don't feel that the whole school should
Oh, now, ladies, please.
How many of the
Can't
faculty
we
does
just...
this statement
Can't we
represent?
have a more orderly... Well, what'd you think of that mess?
I know how serious it was, but it was hard not to laugh.
Yeah, everyone wants to do something, but nobody really does anything. Yeah. Well, that's the way it is around here. Some parents and teachers want a high police profile, while others, well, they rebel at the very idea.
I can appreciate your position.
And then there's the bond issue to worry about. If this campus starts to look like a police academy, there's a very good chance that that money will be finessed right out of the district.
Look, do yourself one favor, Jim. Don't be finessed out of your responsibilities as administrator. I mean, if one of your students assaults or attacks another student or any school employee, it's your duty to report it to the police. It's a misdemeanor if you don't.
You mean that I would be guilty of a crime if I didn't report that knife incident in Miss Hiller's room?
You'd better believe it. And don't give in to pressures from the staff. I mean, some of them would obviously like to see certain things swept underneath the rug. If any school district employee tries in any way to influence you not to report these incidents, they're also guilty of a misdemeanor.
Mr. Collins.
Excuse me, ma'am. Yes, what is it?
Mrs. Withers from the Parents Advisory Council Board is here to talk to you about the petition Miss Hiller is circulating.
Well, I'm busy right now. She'll have to make an appointment to see me next week. If it isn't Mrs. Withers, it's Miss Hiller or Doc Murphy or some irate parent asking why somebody stole her child's lunch money or why he came home with bruises.
But you know, Jim, if a student is beaten up, attacked on the playground, injured, you'd better report it. I mean, all the police have to go on is your report. And if the minor episodes are ignored, they escalate. And boom, you've got another Fox Junior High on your hands. Now, you've got to keep the lines of communication open right from the beginning.
The beginning is when these kids from other schools start to congregate around these gates out here. Oh, I've tried calling the police, but that doesn't really solve the problem.
Yeah, I'll admit, it's damn hard to deal effectively with the outsiders. But that's mostly because the police have their hands tied in these situations.
Why?
Well, for example, if the crime statute on loitering is broken.
California's loitering statute, Penal Code Section 653G, prohibits anyone from lingering near any school or place where children congregate, unless he has a lawful purpose for being there. Although the language of this statute is broad, the courts have interpreted the statute narrowly, enforcing it only against persons found to be lingering around schools while awaiting the opportunity to commit a crime. In other words, merely lingering around a school with no apparent business is not enough to justify an arrest under this statute. Well then, how can one tell whether a suspected loiterer is awaiting a chance to commit a crime? Admittedly, it's very difficult, because it's often impossible to infer someone's intent from his actions. Of course, if it appears that the outsiders are actively looking for a fight, are harassing students, are about to block school entrances, or are behaving in some other similar manner, criminal intent, of course, is clearly suggested. While the loitering statute was enacted as a preventive measure, there are two other statutes which attempt to deal with school trouble after it begins. The first of these, Education Code Section 13558.5, provides that any non-student over 16 who comes onto school property and who causes a disturbance or inflicts damage is guilty of a misdemeanor. However, this statute only applies to persons who cause trouble while on school property. It has no application to persons who cause trouble while outside the school premises. The other statute, which was enacted to deal with school trouble after it begins, is Penal Code Section 626.8. It provides that any person who comes onto school property or adjacent areas without lawful business and interferes with school activities or causes a disruption is guilty of a misdemeanor if he's asked to leave and remains there, or returns within 72 hours. In seeking to reduce the amount of injury and property damage on school premises, school administrators and law enforcement officials should explain to parents the extent of parental liability for their child's destructive behavior. For example, if any minor intentionally defaces or destroys school property, even library materials, the parents are liable for all damages. And if property other than school property is willfully damaged, parents are liable for up to $2,000. In addition, if a parent lets his minor child under 15 bring a firearm to school, or is negligent enough to leave it lying around the house within access to the child, he is financially liable for all consequent property damage and would have to pay whatever damages the court awarded for the death or injury to persons.
The parents in the community have got a problem here. They've got to realize that they have to share in the responsibility of that problem.
I'm sorry, Matt. I'll cooperate with the police as much as I can. But damn it, I've got a job to do. And right now, part of that job is trying to keep the peace here. And I don't mean between the kids. And what you saw in that advisory council meeting was nothing. You ought to sit in on a faculty meeting sometime.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know. When I was in grade school, we didn't have all this. We got along. We enjoyed ourselves. Or maybe that's just the way I'd like to remember it. Come along.
Put some volume on that man so we can hear it, Hey, I wonder what those bad Clarence is anyway.
I don't know, man. What we gonna do if he don't come through with your money?
Hey, we understand the captain ripped off some tapes from the school.
Yeah?
So he either give me my money or them tapes, or I'm gonna get in. The cat's jiving and
All right, man, here he comes now.
Is that him?
Man, I told you I was in jail and I was out of jail. That's
You got something for me? Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Sweet
You got
heart.
something for me?
What I'm supposed to have for you?
What you want, man? Hey, man, I want my money. That's what I want.
Hey, why you keep telling me about that? Everybody else get their money. All right?
While police officers are generally called onto campus, rather than coming of their own initiative, their authority to enter the campus is in no way conditioned upon their being summoned. Neither is the authority of the police on campus subject to any security officer or teacher who might be patrolling the area. Law enforcement officers have the authority to interview suspects, witnesses, or students while those persons are at school. Since public necessity gives police investigation and apprehension of suspects the highest priority, school officials may not hinder the questioning of students by police officers. It is good policy, however, for the officer to notify school authorities before questioning a student during school hours, if possible.
You got any weapons on you?
No. Man, y'all get y'all kicks out of feeling on people.
Don't you worry about it.
Hey, man, what are you dudes fighting about? Man, I wasn't fighting nobody. You see me fight?
Come here. Come on. Where'd you get that tape recorder? Get off the car. Where'd you get the tape recorder?
I ain't seen it before.
Well, it's pretty funny. I saw you throw it in the bushes over there.
Well, I did.
What's your name?
Malcolm.
Malcolm what?
Thomas.
Got any ID, Malcolm?
Nope.
What school do you go to?
Oh, man, what's so important about what school it is I go to?
You go to this school here?
Nope.
I'm gonna hook him up for reason across the river.
Malcolm, I want you to listen very closely because I'm going to advise you of your rights. All right? First of all, you have a right to remain silent. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Second of all, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that?
Here the officers suspect Thomas of possessing stolen property, and they may therefore take him into custody under Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 625. That statute allows officers to take a juvenile into custody whenever they suspect that he has violated a law. The officers must give Miranda warnings to juveniles, such as Thomas, who are taken into custody whether or not interrogation is intended. Thomas, like all juvenile suspects, can waive his Miranda rights and give a voluntary statement, provided he understands the meaning of those rights and freely waives them. But if Thomas or any other minor requests the presence of his parent in response to his Miranda warnings, the courts have held that this request is the equivalent of asking for an attorney. Therefore, all questioning must cease until the arrival of the parent. Before removing a student from school, officers should notify school authorities. The administrator is then required to notify the parent or guardian of the student's release to the officers and the place to which the minor is being taken. Welfare and Institutions Code Section 627 requires the police to also notify the parent or guardian of the minor's location. Finally, officers must allow the minor to complete 2 phone calls at his own expense within 3 hours after being taken into custody. These calls can only be made to an attorney, a parent, or a guardian. If an officer deprives a minor of this right, he commits a misdemeanor.
Could I get that? All right, I'll take it. you do? Sit down.
Thanks.
Trouble with one of my students?
Well, I was driving by the schoolyard and I observed some juveniles fighting. By the time I got my car stopped, they had scattered, except for one student from Youngstown High. He had a school tape cassette recorder with him.
Where did he get it?
Well, that's what we'd like to know.
This is a strange coincidence. Just the other day, I received an anonymous note that one of my students here had some school equipment in his locker.
Did you check it out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm so confused about the search laws that, well, I don't know when I can and when I can't open a student's locker. Besides, I don't think it would really do any good.
Well, are you missing any equipment?
Yeah. One of my teachers has reported some missing equipment.
Well, why don't you check that tip out? You don't have to worry about the search laws. If you find it in your administrative duty to search a student or his locker, you can do it, as long as you're reasonable.
I didn't know that.
You see, being a police officer, I couldn't search a student's locker on my own initiative without a warrant. I'm limited by the Fourth Amendment. But if you requested my assistance, then the courts would consider me as acting as your agent, and I...
Look, I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I'd rather not call the police in on this situation just yet. I'd much rather handle the situation on my own. Makes for better PR with the community, if you see what I mean.
Well, if you change your mind and you want our help,
yes.
you know where to find us.
Right. Thank you. Sure. Goodbye.
School administrators have far more latitude in conducting searches and seizures than do law enforcement officers. Since school authorities are not government officials, the Fourth Amendment does not apply to them. However, the courts have held such searches must be reasonable and related to the school official's duties. School authorities may request assistance from police officers in conducting searches and seizures, which the officers acting on their own would not have the right to make. The officers must, in such cases, be acting as agents of the school official rather than on their own. If the court decides that the school official was acting as an agent of the officer rather than the officer acting as an agent of the school official, the strict Fourth Amendment rules applicable to police officers will be applied. A school official will not be considered an agent for law enforcement so long as his primary aim in making a search is to secure evidence of student misconduct for school purposes. On the other hand, if his primary aim for searching is to obtain a court conviction, he would be considered an agent for law enforcement. The school official may intend to inform the police about evidence he finds in his search, but that intention does not mean that he was acting outside of his duty as a school administrator.
Mr. Collins asked me to give you this tape recorder.
Oh, thank you. Where did he find it?
I don't know. Was it missing?
Yes, I hadn't seen it around for days. Well, thank you for returning it to me.
You're welcome, Miss Hiller. I'll see you in class tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
My money yet?
No money here, blood.
What? Hey, man, I can die, man. You're not asking for
I wonder if Miss Heller... Miss Heller... Excuse me, Judge. Well, thank you. Goodbye.
Mr. Collins, they're at it again at Gate C.
Calm down. Who is at what?
Clarence, Duncan, and the others. They're in a tremendous fight out there. I think that you better call the police.
Now, Miss Hiller, I think you're a little too excited about this. Now, when I was down there and broke up that fight this morning, there was nothing really serious
Mr.
about
Collins, you are the administrator of this school, and I think that you better do something about it right now.
Boom!